recording. Looks like it started recording. Hello, everyone. So, we're going to be doing welcome to the Open Source Intelligence Cyber Investigation Seminar for how to use ChatGPT to leverage and superpower your investigations at extraordinarily high speed. I'm your host, Jordan Tranya. I'm going to be operating as our seminar director. So I'm going to get right into it. Interrupt me, please, at any time. Just unmute, say something. I'll hear you, I hope. If not, and for some reason you can't do that, message me. I'll probably get a bleep and I'll respond. Let's see. So right now I've been working on trying to create a Intel report for the timeline. And I'm using something called futuretimeline.net to do this. So why am I doing this? This type of Intel report is very useful because you can use it as an anchor for AI to basically be able to predict events far into the future. And so in my case, I'm doing a time range of 2020 to 2032. That's a 12-year time range. I like to use time ranges that are attributed to various types of stellar events or planetary cycles. And so things like lunar cycles, things like the years as the orbit of Earth completes one sequence, obviously the rotation of the planet, that's a day. And then sometimes bigger cycles, like either the sunspot solar cycle, which this is based off of, which is directly related to the orbit of Jupiter, which also happens to be approximately 11.86 years for every Jupiter orbit. And by that point, that's actually very close to how long a solar cycle is. And so the sun's solar cycle is related to the orbit of Jupiter, the largest planet in the star system. And so that manipulates how the sun's pulses and changes on the sun's weather patterns, as it were. It's got its own weather, and that results in different types of space weather in our star system that affects Earth, that changes the way that Earth's being impacted. And so there's basically this energy, this global net energy shift over this 12-year-long cycle. That global net energy shift affects the economy because that affects things like weather patterns on Earth, that affects things like the amount of light energy, infrared energy, plant life energy that affects the crops, that affects the economy directly because that's our food source. It also affects other things like, and this matters to us in cyber tech, it affects the satellites. In some periods of the time of the solar cycle, there's a lot more activity. Right now we're getting close to what's called solar peak. And solar peak, there's a lot more energy hitting our planet from the star. And when that happens, it disrupts our communications. Our satellites have a little more trouble. And I like to attribute thus that solar cycle for my medium to long range future planning. We are currently in solar cycle 25. Which started in 2019, so it was 2019.5, 2022, and it actually technically ends in 2031-ish. It's wibbly wobbly, so it might be here, might be here. It's different every time because, there's other planets, and so there's more accurate calculations, but the scientists can only do so much, so I refer to their documentation for when they say it. But in my case, it's roughly a 12-year-long sequence, and so that's what I'm doing here. I'm basically using this as a current solar cycle 25 time map that the AI can use to figure out what's going to happen. I definitely need to prime the AI with that sort of data in this kind of Intel report, but what I'm really going to do is I'm just going to make another Intel report later about exactly what I was just talking about. But in this case, we're here for learning how to do open source intelligence cyber investigations. We're here to learn how to produce Intel reports that have lots of receipts, And so here we have what's called our receipts, our links back to real articles about real considerations of what may or may not be true. And so when, for example, creating a time map, a projection into the future, it's useful to actually go into the past for some period of time and to adhere to some sort of known existing cycle, so it's easier for the AI to actually cross-correlate between that. Let's see. So here, what I'm doing is this is a timeline for cybersecurity. We are navigating the future of cybersecurity and AI. And the reason why we're putting all of this up, the AI knows the difference between a title, it knows the difference between a subtitle, the heading, and all of the other classifications of heading. It knows the difference between a bold, and it knows the difference between just standard regular text. It knows the difference between italic. It knows all of this stuff because it's reading the baseline code of this document, and it's locating the tags, and it's able to do that. So this is a very critical aspect of how to do advanced cyber investigations in your process of using ChatGPT. These types of documents are critical. You usually will need, or rather, I recommend that you usually make at least one primary cover page. In this case, I have two. I have the first cover page is more human legible, and the more concise and well formatted it is, the less ChatGPT has to think. And so all of these ones, all of this is very well formatted. We don't see it, but there's tags behind here in the base code of the document. Those tags ChatGPT relies on in order to understand how to format it. And so, for example, part of what I'm doing here is when I'm let's see if I, here. See these bullet points? When I copy and paste from ChatGPT, let's jump over here and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, here. Let's say I'm gonna copy and paste these two bullet points from 2025. I'm gonna copy that. I already did this, but let's just show you what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna add these to 2025, but look at that. See that difference in bullet point here? That's a formatted bullet point, and this is just a dot. And so I can press, let's see, I think it's control space that, no, oops. This, there it is. So what I'm doing is I'm pressing the option button and the asterisk, that one plus the option button. And so that's on Mac, that's how I'm doing that. But these bullet points aren't very good. They don't have underlying code formatting. And so ChatGPT is super smart. It can do it, and that's great. It can do it, but that's not enough. It's better to have that underlying code formatting because it's more friendly with programming languages than it is with just human speech. And so the more you can see what I just did there, I'm gonna erase that, bring it all the way down, remove all of that excess bullet point formatting that it had, which was actually kind of messy. Didn't look that good. It's also not native to this document, and I erased it all the way to the back this point, and now it's inline. I'm going to press Shift Tab, or Tab. Tab will bring it out. These are the bullet points I mean. Tab will push the bullet point further out. Shift Tab will bring it back. Where am I? I'm in Google Docs. And so this is Google Docs. It's free. It's perfectly free. And I recommend it because you can basically just share directly your documents. I can press the share button. See how it's restricted? I can make anyone with the link. Now anyone has access to this. You'll have access to this very soon. I'll be posting it once it's complete, or at least the first draft. What I need to do is to make sure that all of these links are real, and that's going to take a little bit of time. We'll always check, because sometimes ChatGPT makes these beautiful lists. I can even show you this because it did this to me, and I was like, this is ridiculous. That's not right. This was good. Standalone complex. Yeah, these. So here it's saying, yeah, I found all of these look at these cool articles. Read more, learn about AI. Okay, so let's let's check that. 2024, this, and that. Learn about AI regulations. And what's going to happen? It's a dead link, and so it went to here. It went to here, right? And so I'm still seeing that content, but then it put a tag. This is a tag, and what's going to happen is if you add this tag, it's going to look for one of these links in this group. It's really what it's doing is it's looking for one of these. It's looking for a header somewhere in the code. What the tag means is look for a header that is called this. It's actually, look for a tag that's called this. I believe there's another specific term for it, but that's what we're going to call it because it's a hashtag. We're tagging this. This is a tag. One of these is tagged. And so check this out. I'm going to click on one of these. And so I'm actually going to click on it on a new tab. And there we go. See that? Indonesia new capital, that's a tag, but the name is different. But this is the tag that gets you there. So let's take a look at that on the base code, and then that'll help you understand why it's doing this and how that can be worked with. So over here we have our paragraph. So where is that tag? So what we're going to do is we're going to look for this tag. Why is it doing that? Where is it? There it is. There's one of them anyway. Here it is, the link ID. And so that's what you want. This ID is basically jumping to that particular spot. Let's see, where are you? Where is this? And so it's embedded in this little tiny invisible spot here. See that over here? That's where the tag is. So that's jumping you whenever you click that link. It's jumping you in line in the article. Whenever you do this, you're hot linking to that specific point so that the news article jumps over there. And unfortunately, what's happening in our situation is that ChatGPT is making an assumption that Air Regulation 2024 is a hashtag. It's not. It's not here at all. It's not in the base code. And so when we enter this link actually indeed goes to this website, but that is not a real article link. That's not in context here. So even though it was a real website direction, the hashtag wasn't real. So make sure that you follow through your links and check, and to make sure that those receipts follow through, you need to make sure that that paper trail, that digital trail actually goes all the way through. So what did I do to alleviate that? Because that was really annoying. I was working with it for a while, and I was like, please fix this, this is what you're doing wrong, and it's like, do. Okay, well, let's jump over here and figure out how I pulled that off. Well, after I basically reset it, opened up a new one, that's what you do. And in this case, I kept it simple. I gave it 2 links that are real, and I know that the links have the IDs in them, and they have links referenced in there. So let's go to that website. Oh, yes. Hello? No? Okay. So let's see. And so what this does is that this brings us to this 2020 to 2029 timeline content. And now we're looking at all of these links that reference real articles and real information, various kinds of things that are expected to happen, planned to happen. Do we know that they're going to happen? No. This isn't like a time traveler from the future who's coming and suggesting that all this stuff happens. Every single one of these is some sort of projection from scientists, some sort of article about a plan or an initiative that they're going to do, any and all kinds of content of what that might happen. And also, this website keeps a record of things that did happen. And so you can reference all that. The PlayStation 5 launch, that was a very big deal. Everybody needs to know that. Yeah, sure. And then the internet reaches 5 billion. Oh, hello. Yes?
Hello.
Oh, hello. Do you have a question, or should I keep going?
You can keep going.
All right, cool. So
Are you paying for the GPT subscription?
I am. I have to, because I use it so much that I basically overload the 4.0. This is the mode that you want. You can get this for free, but you only have so many tokens per day or per week, and then you have to wait until it resets. So it's a good test at the beginning. You can still use the base version if you don't want to do internet stuff. And so let me be more specific. Um, I'll be more specific because this is critical. The reason why we're now capable of doing cyber investigations with ChatGPT is that ChatGPT can access the internet. So here's the big difference between them. I'm actually going to go all the way to 4, and I'm going to say perform a cyber investigation and get me and yes, perform a cyber investigation. Go online and look for articles about the UN and any potential global defense initiative initiatives. Look for any other things that might be similar to the idea of a global defense initiative. I'm going to copy that. Let's see what it says and does. Is it searching? It is searching. Look at that. There it goes. It actually went online. So 4 can even do it. 4 and 4.0. 4.0 is way better at cyber investigations, and it's much faster at cyber investigations than 4.
How much is it monthly?
I don't think it's going to show my
I think
you
it
know
was
what?
like
Let's just ask it.
$10 or
Let's just ask
something
it.
last time I used it.
$10. Okay.
$10.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure about that.
Well, let's look it up. Let's test it out. Chat. How much is ChatGPT Plus today?
I think it's 20 actually.
I think it's 20. Nope. Yeah, priced in 20 per month.
Okay.
Once again, 4 is available for free, so you can actually, if your tokens run out for 4.0, 4 it'll drop you into 4 mode, and all that means it's just a little slower in a bunch of different kind of ways. It's still really good. Um, it's just slower in general. It's the benefit is that it is still very smart. 3.5 is just more than smart enough actually if you don't need the internet. So sometimes you can actually just rely on ChatGPT to know things. And so instead of looking up online, you can just ask it, do you know of any, think about and look up any kind of articles, or what kind of articles do you know about that are that way? Let's actually watch and go through it doing that. So you know exactly what I mean, besides just me talking about it, because that's it's better to see it, right? And I need to prove that this is real, and so let's go. I am performing a cyber investigation. Oh. Instead of going online, this one cannot go online, but it's lightning fast, and it's still pretty smart. And this is the one I've been using predominantly for all of my work so far. And only over the last like month or so, this finally came out, and then now it does the online stuff. And gosh, it's way better than just it being online. It can make images, it can do all sorts of crazy things. But once again, every single one of those is worth a token, and so don't burn it out, because it's actually yeah right. And so if you do burn it out, just be patient, wait for it to reactivate, or you can pay for the professional, the paid version, the professional version, and that'll basically supercharge all of your investigations there. So I'm going to say, look for articles about the UN, look for real articles about the UN and any potential. There we go. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, follow. I need URL links that are real, that reference these 4 list items. That's a thing, by the way. It's very picky with what you call what. And so if you're going to reference list items, be specific and say list item. That is really useful. It's a very simple thing. It can get mentally exhausting to kind of have to constantly talk to it that way, but it needs you to be able to be very explicit about what type of stuff you're talking about. So when I say that, try to not say words like this, that, those, these, it. These kind of generic words, in grammar they have a specific thing. I forgot what it is, but these words are they are referencing nouns, but it's not specific which noun. So always replace this with the words for whatever this is. Be always explicit. So whenever you accidentally put an it, sometimes ChatGPT may get confused. It has to think more every time you put an it, every time you put a this, especially those two. That's what I'm talking about. These are not as bad, but these, it helps so much tremendously to be able to actually explicitly call out whatever you're referencing. So ChatGPT doesn't have to think about it, and then as a result, it'll carry more processing power to just give you a better answer. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to give it a really good instruction, a really accurate, almost programmatic instruction, because that's what it's wanting. It wants programmatic instructions, and I'll get into that, what's called pseudocode. It wants basically a pseudocode that it's comfortable with, that it can use in order to like kind of interpret this information. So I'm going to erase this. I need URL links that are real for the references of these 4 items, that reference the 4 items. There it goes. And now we're going to check in to see what these are. Okay? We're going to make sure that these are real. Looks like it's loading. And look at that. United Nations, Peacekeeping Force, the Blue Helmets, burden sharing, and now we have basically a baseline reference. Peacekeeping operations. Is that a different link? Look at that. It's a different link, but look at that. Page not found. This must have existed once, but currently it's not. And so that's also, once again, why we keep checking these. We want to go in there, make sure these links are actually real. And so I wonder if we can do some kind of search here. Operations. Is there an operations word there? There's not. And so that's where we are. We are basically at the 404. So we're going to go back and we're going to say some of these links are dead links. Try to reference explicit and specific articles as URLs. And so like this is a programming term. So I'm typecasting. So what that means is that we have articles and we needed to convert the articles conceptually into what are URLs. URLs as URLs that link to the article web page. And now we have it very explicitly what we're really, really looking for. We want to typecast. We want to be very explicit and specific. These are very helpful words to be able to get it to go exactly where we want it to go. So let's see if it can do this just without the internet. And so look at that, it screwed up again. So let's make sure it actually screwed up. Maybe it didn't. No, it went back to that. And so it definitely removed one of the dead links. Let's see here. What about this one? Oh, look at that, an entire timeline. This is a great example of a type of website that we might want to have the real ChatGPT or the, I'm sorry, 3.5, but the 4.0 version. That one's really the one we want to use. And so this is really cool because this basically gives us a record that ChatGPT can then use. So this is a great type of example of a website that we want to try. So let's take a look. We're going to have it, let's drop in, let's get out of here. So now you understand the limitations in terms of what it can do or cannot do. It's not that it can't get you these articles. They could probably even find us more specific articles. Um, let's see. Actually, I'm very curious about that. What about other links? What about other links? Create a list of links to special articles about these topics above. There, yeah. And so you can always do this. This is I don't have to explicitly say about topics related to the UN. Now it helps it to keep that, so I just copy and paste this. Topics related to the UN, but you can also just say above. It knows what above is. It means like things we've already discussed. You can also say about these topics we are discussing. So there's a couple ways that you can get it. Each one of those means something slightly different. When you say above, that might confuse it, so sometimes it's better to say that. Or just be very specific. That way it will not divert from whatever you're trying to go for. So the more specific you are, the better it is. Because when I'm saying above, this word above. This is ChatGPT has to be smart enough to think about the context, and that makes it exhausted. And so that's no different from saying this or it. Saying above is a little harder, and so it's better to be explicit and tell it exactly what we want it to do. Okay, so it's still failing us, but look at that. It did not fail here, so let's see what this is. Did it really go to an article? It did not. It just went to the surface level website. So this is a very key part in experience. I'm surprised that it's not doing this better. I'm a little disappointed that it's not pulling that off. Resolutions overview. Yeah, these are very generic things. No, these are generic. And this is an example of fighting with it. These are generic. And this is valuable for you because as I go, I'm just going to basically figure out what was wrong with my original request. Why is it falling into this stupid loop where it thinks that it's got to keep regurgitating this same. And so what we're going to do is we're going to keep talking to it. These are generic. I want articles. Don't reference any URLs you've already referenced. Look for articles elsewhere. Okay, so it's still very generic. It's still very surface level. So that one's interesting. Is this real? Curious. No, 404. See that? So the original one is having a lot more trouble trying to pull this off. Probably because my original ask might be out of scope. Or maybe it's censored. Those kinds of things can actually affect the original 3.5. Now, I don't want to do this now. This is frustrating. This makes ChatGPT not very good for cyber investigations. You can still use it to make other stuff. I can show you more stuff there. But these are the limitations of the older version of ChatGPT, which is why I never started this internship program until now. Now, we can drop into here. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to say, I want this. I think I already did this. Yes, I did. And look at this. And so here we are. We're only in 4, and it was already able to actually search 3 sites. This is fantastic. Let's take a look. Are these real? That's real. Look at that. It found it. It's talking about it. This is a real article. All right, that's a big difference. What a big difference. And that's just one jump from 3 to 4. That's it. Fantastic. Let's take a look. Let's make sure it's doing it over here. It did. And look at that. This is an article. It's a continue breaking defense. Try to do that. Yay. Fantastic. We have a real article. It's talking about it. It's popping up all over the place. ChatGPT doesn't even care about those pop-ups, and so it's just reading the baseline code. And so we can actually have it do that. So let's have it do that. I'm going to close some of these because I just opened up a ridiculous amount of generic websites. Here we go. So, fantastic. Based on these articles, come up with a strategy for performing a much deeper investigation into finding any real world global defense initiatives. And so what we're doing here, it did a good job. We liked this. These are two very real articles that link to real concepts behind what we're looking for. Fantastic. And see that? I told it fantastic. Now it knows it did a good job. It's happy. I'm happy. And then I said, fantastic. That means we can do this much more advanced thing. Now it's going to come up with a strategy based on what it's already been told is fantastic. It's going to reference that, use that as a baseline, and now it's come up with this whole strategy. Fantastic. Great. Use this strategy. See that. Use there's a big difference between this and the strategy. What is the difference in this case? If you say this strategy, it doesn't really know. Like what? It could be any strategy. Maybe you had 20 strategies. Maybe there's one that's higher up in ChatGPT's memory. But let's say you say it's thinking of the closest one to this statement, the one that it just produced. And so that's immediate context. It's not even just immediate context, it's the only one. It's the only one in context. There's only one strategy in context, whereas this implies that there's multiple strategies. They'll both work, but when you say you're being explicit, and when you say this, you're being implicit. You're not being specific. And so it's the little things like that that really help ChatGPT kind of understand where and what and how to do things. And it's just these subtle code changes in our language that make it able to do that. So use the strategy you produced. Now it's very specific. Look at that. Use the strategy that you produced to begin the first phase of a cyber investigation and dig deeper into finding more details out about any real world global defense initiatives. And then what else do I want it to do? In fact, I think that's good enough for now. Oh, make sure you include real URL link references that link to real articles and web pages about the topic. Boom. Now that's going to constrict it to make sure that we not only get a bunch of text, but we also actually get links to whatever it's looking at and referencing. We need those because otherwise we don't know if these are real or if ChatGPT's just dropped into a fiction state and it's just talking, which happens. It happens. It drops into fiction state all the time. And so you gotta really help it stay focused on that. And so here we are. We have a bunch of references. Look at this. It's getting really specific. Look how specific that is. Now, and then these are leads. This is a lead on a group of a group's technology, what exactly the technology is, where is the technology, who's involved, and this gives us all kinds of contextual information to really jump and go into. And so let's actually check this, make sure it's real. Looks like it's real. Look at that. Oh, and we got people doing stuff, and all of these article things happening. So that gets us a lot better ability for these cyber investigations. Let's check all of these. Let's make sure every single one of these. Let's do a due diligence as real cyber investigators working on a real case where people who are in the legal department, I mean, everyone's going to be type checking this stuff because it's like it's a battle in the lawsuit. Whoa, what's happening here? Look at that. That was a generic link. Why is it a generic link? Because there's two of them, It's going, one of them's basically referencing what? Global Defense News. Uh, what does it say it was? What did it say this was? Copy link. Let's see what it thinks it was supposed to be. Oh, did I click this one? Let's see. Oh, yeah. And so it's just referencing these two locations. I don't know why it's referencing this one as a generic website. Probably because once it was like on the main page. Maybe that's what's going on. It might be on the main page. Oh, look at that. It's on the main page. That's why it's doing that. See there, the F-16 fighters. F-16 fighters. So it is referencing properly, but it didn't go deeper into this. But that's okay, because it's still here. That's still a lead. Good work, ChatGPT. But this one, let's take a look. And so here is a real article, Future of NATO. We're looking at latest analysis. NATO comes to Washington. NATO comes to Washington. So this is a very good way to kind of explore how to get those articles, how to get those backlinks. Let's keep going to make sure every single one of these are real, or to see if they're not, and then see what we can do about that. And so look at that. This is really interesting. Here we have what's called a Global Defense Initiative. We're looking for those. It helps to sing. If you don't know how to sing, just do little duties. You can do little tweets. Think like a bird. Try to pass the time. It's good for psyops. Counter psyops is how to counter psychological operations. And when you're doing work, sometimes you get really bored, and that desensitizes you. So sometimes you need to give yourself a sudden boost. And so give yourself a little song. And if somebody comes around the corner, tries to make fun of you, well, that's their problem. And so just duty louder. Teach them a lesson. don't stop my duty, dudes. So let's see what this one says. This is a long one, very, very deep. Oh, interesting. So there we go. A Global Defense Initiative. It is a Defense Innovation Collaboration. That's a Global Defense Initiative. These things happen all the time. There's defense initiatives happening all the time. And it's global because there's people working on the global level, working together. And so a Global Defense Initiative can be all kinds of stuff. And we can definitely tap into that. So there we go. That is generally how to make it get you receipts. Let's see. Where, I don't know what to do now. Where do you think I can go from here? Come up with a list of tactics. So check this out. There are strategies, and then there are tactics. So we're actually going to say a list of strategies and a list of tactics. Also include a clear definition of the difference between strategies and tactics. That way, ChatGPT knows what it means, it knows the difference, and so it can preload inline what those differences are, so when it keeps going, it can have a solid anchor point of what we're trying to get it to do. So now it knows what the definitions are, it's declared it, and now it's going to start coming up with these strategies for next steps and tactics for implementing defense strategies. These are some examples of what you might want to include in an article. In my case, that makes sense because I want to start a global defense initiative. And so this is fantastic because this is one strategy for advancing, tactics for implementing. Why are these different? Well, let's take a look. A strategy refers to a high-level plan. The high-level plan is designed to achieve one or more goals under conditions of uncertainty. It sets the direction and establishes priorities for the action needed. Strategies are broader, long-term visions that provide a framework within which to make decisions. Now, tactics are different. Tactics are a specific set of actions or set of steps that you undertake to accomplish the strategies. So you create the strategies, and that's just basically your overall direction. Then you come up with tactics that are specific actions and specific steps in order to accomplish the strategies. They are the practical implementation that directly engage with problems or opportunities. Often, tactics are more short term and focused in nature. Are more short term and focused in nature. So what that means is strategies, simply put, these are long term, these are short term. These are plans, these are actions. So this is more of your kind of like more intelligence, more thinking, more coming up with plus stuff to basically come up with the overall plan. Architecture in software development. Tactics are much more about how are we going to really do this? What exactly? What are the specifics? What are the pathways that we're going to put? What are our actions? What are the action items that we need to take? What are the tactics? What's our tactics list? And so, this is in the military setting. This is a big thing, but also in the executive room, this is what they use. They talk strategy, they talk tactics. From an executive perspective, the CEO or a vice president, all these higher level people, if you want to jumpstart your career and you want to prove to them, coming right out into your career, out of this internship program, you want to prove to them that you can think like a VP, like a vice president. You can think like a technology director. And you think not just tactics, what are the actions, but what are the strategies? And being able to do both, to demonstrate both in a very short period of time verbally, wow, that will get you the wow factor for anybody who is higher level and has those conversations in those rooms with the CEO, with the upper management, with executives, and with people at those higher levels like the chief architect or a technology director, who are usually working hand in hand. Technology director, and chief architect. And so these two, for example, in software development especially, they work very, very close together. The technology director is much more about strategy, and you know what? So is the chief architect. They both work together on a strategic level, as opposed to a lead developer who is way more focused on tactics. And if, as we proceed, we actually get this hierarchical, the chief architect and technology director tend to actually be a little more like this. They work together very specifically. The director is more strategy, and the chief architect is more tactic. The chief architect is going to figure out exactly how are we going to put that together. They create the architecture and help the lead developer form explicit tactics. And the technology director is much more of an executive variant, or right underneath the executive. So if you're looking for a software developer position that is as high as you can get before entering the executive offices, like a vice president or higher, even a vice president isn't necessarily all the way up to the full executive status. It's in there, they're in that room, they have those offices, but a CEO and anything that has a chief executive officer, any kind of executive, any kind of officer, that's the real executive. Those are the executive rooms. A technology director is basically the person who is going to be talked to by those top executives about the technology. It's simple. They direct the technology. They declare and dictate what the technology direction is. And so, technology director is basically someone who does a lot of research, figures out that they know the timeline, they know where the technology is going to go, they know what kind of options are available, they're looking for strategies, they're kind of keeping their finger on the pulse of what's happening. If you can prove that you have technology director capacity using various types of documentation that you can bring as receipts and evidence that you're very skilled with that sort of thing, that'll get you into a startup, right into a startup, and that'll get you in as like a technology director of a startup coming right out of college. So we're talking about a situation where you have your senior developer and your junior developer to your let's see, your entry level developer, and then finally an intern. This is the hierarchical rank level. There's more in between. Uh, Honestly, it's a little more like this. It's a little more like this. No, it's definitely like this, actually. So the senior developers and junior developers tend to work together. Senior developers are a little, they're more senior, whatever that means. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're more experienced. It just means that they have a position that's called senior developer. Don't let them fool you. Senior and junior, these are just titles. And so you can actually just get a senior developer, but it's hard to do if you're young because the word senior implies senior. It's easier to get a junior developer. Why waste your time doing that when you can jump all the way up to here by joining a startup at the earlier development and basically get that lead developer position, get that chief architect position. This one's harder to do. You actually have to have architecture experience for software development or any architecture. Maybe it's what's called a systems architect, for example. But generally, architecture, if you need to, that's a very explicit field, very valuable. But you can always go for a technology director. If you can score one of these, you're at the top of the development food chain because you're not only just a software development director, you are the director of all technology. And if you can entrench there for that corporation, basically as the company makes the big money, you make that big money. And you are explicitly very valuable because you're the one who knows about all of this stuff. You're the one who's organizing who's the architect, who's the lead developer, who gets to be senior developer. This person is a command and control position. This is a command and control position. And so that means that this person has the power to basically declare they get the final say in terms of who gets to join the team. And so this is generally how that hierarchical structure works. The reason why that matters in context of what we're doing is that this explains how strategy, which is formed and started by the technology director, refined by the chief architect, dropped down to the lead developer, and these two have a conversation about tactics. They form all the tactics, and then they send out those actions and steps to the senior and junior developers, who then are able to divert some of this work along with the help of the lead. This entire group, I'd actually, you know what, it's a little more like these. This group really is the one who determines what this group gets. And it's not because they're taking the best options. What's actually happening is they're discussing what kind of stuff this guy can do, because whatever this guy can do, these folks cannot. This one has had enough experience generally. This one is older and can handle very explicit types of code that are much more, that just require that pre-knowledge. And so anything that these folks can take up, they'll take up. That way these folks can do the other work that's a little easier to work on. In all of your cases, we only have a technology director in this company. I am the technology director, and we only have interns. So all of this is not in play. And so it's actually a little more like that. And so this is a lot more what's kind of happening in our structure overall. I hope to, I'm very democratic, and so I also like to have both. And so it's kind of both for me. But I definitely am making the directions, I am creating the strategies, and so that is really happening. That's a real aspect. And so for context, in our environment, this is how we're operating, simply put. So that's ultimately that hierarchy, and that helps any developers understand what's the difference between strategy and tactics, and how does that play a role in this. I diverted, but let's go back into the cyber investigation. We're now getting into hold on. I am going to start the next thing, start event. Channel already has an active event. We're technically supposed to do the workshop, but we're just going to keep going. I'll have to figure out how to handle that. I'll figure that out later. So I was just looking at my other screen. That's part of what's going on. So let's see. So these are tactics and strategies for figuring this out. What other types of... Okay, I want to continue our cyber investigation and continue to dive even deeper. Find more information and get more links that are one or two more layers deep into the internet. And so you want it to basically keep following through whatever it's already got. And that's what I'm going to say, keep following through using what you already got. And it generally knows that. I think I'm just going to leave that there. It's good enough. And that's okay. We'll see what it can do. Okay, look at that. It's following through. One even came up with the link. Space collaboration on hypersonic missile defense. Okay, and so these are more defense initiatives. So let's get specific. You can even just say stuff like that. And that's kind of makes it feel, it's kind of interesting because depending on your cadence, you can use your own cadences, and it is usually compatible with that. So while indeed I am saying don't use stuff like this or that, at the same time, you can't, it's not like you can't. And so when you have to, go ahead. If it makes it easier, go ahead. Sky's the limit there, as long as it works. And a lot of this we're pioneering as we go. So let's get specific. I am looking for a cyber security defense, a cybersecurity related global defense initiative. We are looking for, we are looking for someone or some group that can provide us resources and funding for our global Web3 decentralized global Web3 decentralized public domain open source Creative Commons. Yeah, this is too many things, actually. All of that's true. Public domain covers it. Public domain cyber investigations platform. Our global platform and DApp. There we go. And so that's what we're going to have it do. Let's see. Let's get specific. I'm looking for this. Okay, but I haven't given it an instruction. It can assume an instruction, but let's get specific. Using the references so far as inspiration, now perform a cyber investigation. See what I just said? Inspiration. I want it to be inspired by this, but I don't want it to reference. So there's a big difference between reference and inspiration. And so words like imagine, words like inspiration, words like dream up, it can do those things too. And all of these result in different types of concepts. Imagine might even accidentally get you an image. I've not seen that, but that's an example of the kind of unexpected behaviors that sometimes it does. Because once again, this is bleeding edge. This tech just came out, so we're now leveraging it. Okay, so using the references so far as inspiration, as references, as inspiration. See there, I'm typecasting. In programming, I am typecasting the references and recategorizing them as inspiration. So programmatically, that's what it's seeing. Now perform a cyber investigation, that's an instruction, into finding any clues that can lead us to getting established under a UN sanctioned global defense initiative. Okay, I think that's good enough. Let's try it out. Look at it go. It's fun. It's fun to watch that. And then it says how many sites, and I'm like, wow, that was quick. I like that feedback. That's new. Now we have the ChatGPT app. That's what I'm in. I'm not on the website anymore. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is too long cheat code. This is a cheat code. You need this cheat code. Too long didn't read. Too long didn't read. TLDR. Write that down. Get used to it. I don't want to read this. I'm lazy. I don't care. I don't want to read it. Okay, so that's also I don't want to read a paragraph. Okay, now I'm going to actually edit it so it doesn't mess up. With bullet points. With bullet points. I need those bullet points. There, yeah, easy to read. Look at that. So what I'm going to ask it is which ones, and I could check these, but instead I'm just going to, sometimes you just can have it on faith. Because if it's been giving you good articles already, that means it probably will give you good articles for a while. Don't count on it, but just be careful. I'm checking anyway just to make sure that we're following through. Look at that. We have increasing international. Oh, look at these signs that we need to see. And look how far ago. That's back in 2018. We're like 6 years in the future. That's a good sign. That means that it's already been talked about for 6 years, and they probably need it even more than ever. There's probably initiatives that pre-exist that we can tap into, and that's evidence of that truly happening. So here are links to ones that really exist. Here's a cybersecurity global alliance. Really, that's a name that really sounds like the kind of group that we probably want to at least talk to. And look at this, nice website, super cool. Our mission, doing stuff, probably all AI generated. And look at that, we even got people who we can attempt to contact and people that the system can try to investigate. And so all of this is viable follow-up content, and you can basically just say, look at this website and try to figure out how to communicate with them. And so create a strategy for communication plans. Fantastic, we're going to do that. So I don't even remember what I was going to do. That's okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this whole thing. I'm going to say, I like this. I like this one. Oh no, I said this one. But guess what? What is this one? Does ChatGPT have to think what this one is? No. I like this one. And then what did I do? Colon. Now this suddenly has a pointer. It's pointing. So which one do I like? I like this one. This one, I copied and pasted it. ChatGPT counts this as a token. This token matches this token. It knows from its memory that it already mentioned this. So it's going to say, okay, that's I like Jordan likes this particular one I posted out, so I'm going to follow up on that. So I like this one. Come up with a strategy for, and then later we're going to do tactics. Come up with a strategy for how to let's see, contact and gain, and contact, propose, and gain resources funding for our cyber security operations in our company. and boom. And so it's going to come up with this strategy. We can read it or we can just use it to then create tactics. And then we'll have enough content to basically take all of this, and then we can turn this into a document that basically starts with a cyber investigation and then ends with action items with links to where to go. And so we basically just got to the point where I didn't even know if there was a global defense initiative of any kind. We found a bunch. We got specific and said, okay, now that we know that these are real and that they exist and we have references, backlinks, and everything, figure out, we need a specific one for cybersecurity because that's our realm. Find ones that are like the ones you've been looking for. It found them. Here's one. And then we picked one after it was too long, can't read, need to see it, need to read it better. Now it's better formatted for us to read. It's better formatted for the AI to read. That's very valuable. Make sure that you are very willing to tell it to do this whenever it starts kind of getting wordy. And see how it was using numbers here and then it kind of dropped off the numbers. You want to have it using bullet points. You want to have it using lists. It's easier for you to read. It's easier for the AI to read. It's easier to format when you drop it into a document. And so here we go. We have more lists. And what happens is when you do this, it also resets ChatGPT. It says, oh, I should probably be doing more lists. And so it remembers that and it kind of retains that formatting. It will be wibbly wobbly into the future. But this is great. It just came up with a full strategy for how to pull that off. And so this is like information on how to follow up on our intel report. So now create tactics from the strategy. Make sure there are your real world URL links and references that we can use to, let's see, to follow up and follow through on the tactics. Because we don't want it to just come up with the tactics but then leave us hanging. We want it to try to come up with these URLs. But look at that. No direct URL. That's what it is. And that's okay. That's okay. Because we actually technically already have their URL, which is, since this is hypothetical, research and preparation, use resources like this on websites, and standing the mission, no direct. Okay, gather intelligence. And so it doesn't have a URL for us. This is just a general tactic. Identifying stakeholders. Don't forget, we're actually going to give it this. We're going to have it drop off. But look at this. It's coming up with stuff, formal presentation. It's all of these links are basically ways to make sure that you can get this to happen. And if anything is kind of out of range of how you want to pull it off, that's okay. You can basically explain that. Let's follow through on this. Follow through on this. Through on tactics step 1. So what I did, I copied and pasted that. I just told it to do this, step 1. Now it knows that this is step 1. So if it was confused before, if these are steps, which these are steps, but now it definitely knows that we think it's a step and we're telling it it's a step. And so whenever you type anything in here, you're telling it what reality is. It's not that reality is whatever is actual. It doesn't care. You can tell it what's reality. And there's a number of ways to cheat through that, and I'll go through that maybe in another seminar, maybe I'll do it later. Right now we're kind of focusing on exploring how to create and generate these tactics and to check the tactics to make sure that these tactics are viable. So what are we doing? We're identifying stakeholders. How are we going to do that? Use LinkedIn. How are we going to use LinkedIn? Search for the organization. Let's do that. Let's actually follow through. Let's go all the way. Hopefully I don't have anything personal on my LinkedIn. I'm going to open it up over here to make sure that's not the case. I do have a message, and it's a thank you, and so that's good. So here I'm actually going to drop it back down. This is fine. Boom. Definitely going to follow that. nonprofit organizations. Look at this group. Located. Now we can take a look, view page. They're going to know, the AI now knows, the AI of the internet now knows that I'm interested in this website. Why? Because the algorithms of LinkedIn just saw that I clicked the link, it saw that I followed them, and it saw that I put their group specifically in the search. So now LinkedIn's algorithms know that I'm interested in this. Those algorithms are then picked up by other AI across the internet. And now the AI of the internet are propagating the fact that I'm interested in a cybersecurity global alliance enough to look them up, click on the link, and then follow them. And so that's really valuable. What I just said means that the algorithms of the internet are now going to make it easier for me to get information about explicitly this. They'll bubble up stuff up to my feeds. They'll tell me all kinds of stuff. My advertisements are slightly affected. My LinkedIn feed will now include this. So this is being able to do this actually helps you in, and oh, this is interesting, online safety group, definitely want a cyber task force, definitely want to be part of that. Those are cool. And see that now I get these affiliate pages, and now I can also tell the AI I want these things. And so it's going to try to help me figure that out, because it's just, that's what its job is. It's just basically to freaking help us do whatever we're doing on the internet, while also trying to help other people do whatever they want to do, like profit off of us for using advertisements, example, or perhaps monitoring us for cybersecurity on a global scale or on a national scale. And that also means that now Space Force knows. That means they're all interested. They all know, and so their AIs also know that this is what's going on. That I have just, and so this is still propagating as I speak. It is propagating across the net. It'll really take about, I don't know, at tops a couple minutes for it to propagate all the way, and then over the course of hours and days, that will be processed a little more and more, and then that'll probably just kind of chill out, and then we'll and then it'll be baked in. So that was a nice follow through. So that was a really good step. They will see that I followed them. They're busy, so I'm just one guy, probably not very visible. Explore employees and roles. Let's do that. So we were able to. We actually looked at that before. Here we go, where we're looking at the roles. Here's all the roles. So what we're actually going to do is we're just going to like copy this, a little blap, and this is going to be messy, and I'm going to show you how to deal with that. Sometimes ChatGPT can't handle websites very well. In this case, we can ask it to do this automatically, but you're learning, so I'm going to train you in another way to basically use ChatGPT to bypass certain protocols, and when I say that, I mean like it can't do certain things because it doesn't think that way, and so we have to help it think that way. So what is this? This is a website excerpt from, and we want what kind of excerpt? It's a copy and paste. We want to know that if we tell it that that's what it is. That's what it is. So CSGA. And now we're going to make a block. And so if you weren't in the previous ones, I'll always mention this. This is your key. This is your value. This is the title of whatever this is. This defines what it is. This is what it is. This is a block. This is like a block of code or a block of text. In this case, it's a block of text. What kind of block of text? It is a copy and paste excerpt from the CGI's website. So we're actually going to do that. That's much more explicit. It'll help easier for it to read. And there we go. Find out how to best get into contact with the. So what I'm going to say is I have. So this is our context. We're going to give it instructions after the block. And you can put multiple blocks in, by the way. So I'm going to just erase that. So it's formatting the blocks helps, because then ChatGPT doesn't have to think so much. Okay. I have just done this, the task. See that? I was going to say this, and then I realized, oh, wait a minute, it needs to be faster. I have just done the task, explore employees and roles. Now it knows what I just did. It understands the context of where we are in the steps and the sub-steps in this case. And now I'm going to tell it what to do. Find out how best to get into contact with these people. Come up with strategy, tactics, and then perform actually, that's it. Come up with strategy and tactics. It's usually better to actually just package them together. It's more than capable of handling that. So you don't have to do multiple passes unless you need to make sure that your strategy is very refined. So let's say if you are not sure about the strategy and you need to go about like the plan for overall what you're going to do, go through a couple phases of working with ChatGPT until you got the strategy down and you like what it's saying completely, then have it build the tactics. So don't just trust it to do the strategy and tactics all the time. But in this case, we already did that. And so it's got context. It's going to do it again, but I'm lazy, and that's okay, too. So here it goes. Now this is loaded into the discussion. It's got this list. It knows about them. Oh, and here we go. Very specific tasks. And these are instructions. This is detailed instructions for how to specifically handle each one of these types of people and which ones are the best ones to communicate with. And now we know what to do. We have found specific people to communicate with who are part of a company or organization that is on global setting for cybersecurity, who are the best people to communicate with for what we're trying to do. There's other organizations that we can do these cyber investigations with, and so this is an example of how to go from start to finish on opening a cyber investigation into global defense initiatives, finding specific versions of a global defense initiative, figuring out the tactics and strategies, getting further deeper into the weeds, and just trying to get more and more information until we can get a company that we like, following through, and then finding that yes, the company's real, follow them, and then clicking on all this stuff to make sure that the algorithms of the internet now understand that that's where we're going, and so they'll open up doors, they'll make connection contact ever so slightly easier. The algorithms know that we're looking for these people, and that's because we're pumping it into ChatGPT. ChatGPT's logs are watching this, and so what's also happening, the internet is being monitored by these supercomputers of various agencies and governmental militaries and governments. And so what's happening there, as we're surfing the net, those bigger AIs are also seeing this and cluing in other AIs at the same time. They're all talking to each other while we're doing these investigations. And so don't fight that by being quiet. Allow them to see you. Open source intelligence works best, not in the shadow of darkness, but in the truth of light. The best thing about open source intelligence investigations is that it's all out there, and the more truth you put out there, the stronger we become overall as an intelligence group on a global scale. This helps everybody. So always count on those algorithms on the net to be able to help you boost and put some ease into what you're trying to do, because it'll definitely want to help you. Okay, so what do we got here? So we have identifying stakeholders, we got this, and that. Oh, we're further back. Okay, so now we got some tactics, very good things. I want too long didn't read. Remake with bullet points and clear direction in an easy to read format for an Executive overview. This is a very specific and special term, so I'm actually going to capitalize this. I can't stress this one enough for this context. An executive overview is for CEOs who know nothing about anything. And that's okay. They're busy being big shots in charge of a big company with the big money, you know. So that's who they are, and that's fantastic because we need them to actually have those egos so that they can do ego battles with other big executives who are doing the same thing in other companies. So that's part of authentically. That's part of that. So nothing's wrong with that. We actually kind of need that. That's why executives are very valuable because they can have those uh, high level, powerful persona conversations about very big topics that involve hundreds, if not many thousands or millions of people that are maybe under their wing. So they do need to have those big personas because they need to be able to represent these big things. Doing that requires a lot of charisma training, so they spend a lot of time doing that. And as a result, they don't have a lot of time to get down into the weeds and technicalities. And that's why when you do an executive overview, they just need to know what's called the meat and potatoes. Meat and potatoes. I'm actually a vegetarian. I'm not trying to tell everybody to do that. I don't declare it that way. Actually, I'm not a vegetarian as far as I'm concerned. I'm more just, I don't eat meat. I do eat potatoes. But meat and potatoes is a colloquial term from American pastimes. And basically, it just means I don't want any fluff. No fluff, meat and potatoes. So if you have a colloquial term from any cultural origin, even in a native language, you can literally just type it in the native language and drop it in, and it'll know. ChatGPT can speak all of these languages, so it's not just limited to English. It can speak anything. I write in English. I write in American English, which is a specific dialect. We have like a crazy number of dialects in this country of our version of English. Simply put, Americans don't say, there's the word ladder, ladder, duh. We say with ladder. Actually, I think that's the spelling. I don't know. But you see, that's a thing that Americans do. Whenever there is a double T, it's not about the spelling here, it's about the pronunciation differentiation. In America, we don't say latter. We don't say latter. We say ladder, as an example. In Australia, they say the ladder. They don't do the They don't do the r. They don't do the They do ah. The ladder. Get the ladder. And so that's kind of a general dialect difference, and all of those apply. But once again, the spelling will always be the same. I forgot the spelling. Ladder. I'm going to pronounce do that too. Oh, that is how you spell it. So ladder. Sorry, wrong example. But it doesn't matter. We in America do D's. Proper English from the land of England, they do a T's if they can, if that's how it's supposed to be. I know there's specific words, and so ChatGPT can figure those out, by the way. And so even if you're mistyping, it can figure it out. But try your best to make sure that everything is as legible and as type accurate as possible. Otherwise, it'll kind of get confused. But once again, it knows exactly what this means. This is another cheat code. Just like using TLDR as a cheat code, this is another cheat code. These are cheat codes for getting it to do something very explicit and very simple. So I'm going to no fluff, meat and potatoes. And so executive overview, we want this to be read by a CEO, so it's very quick, easy, and right to the point. They got no time. They have less than a minute. They need to read this now and then start talking about it right away. That's what it needs to be. We cannot waste our time creating like a 50-page document where we're basically telling a beautiful story of all this kind of stuff. Those stories are great. The AI will read it, and so make that for the AI. Yeah, it likes that actually. But an executive overview, that's better for a human that we're trying to convince of something. So we're going to drop that in. No fluff, meat and potatoes. They got no time. Executive officer. And now it's going to do it. So in my case, I'm the receiver of this. I just want to get a basic overview of what I need to do so I can kind of load this in my head, maybe even just put it on a simple piece of paper. This makes it easy, fast, and clear exactly what I have to do, as opposed to this, which is a little harder to read. See how it's kind of like a little dense here, and I kind of have to think a little more. I don't have to think so much now, and neither does ChatGPT. And so that's very valuable. Not that ChatGPT can't read this, it's just this is easier to read. And if it's easier to read for us, it's easier to read for ChatGPT. So this is part of how you can refine your data, refine it further in order to get what you want. Once again, this is your executive overview, and helps us for figuring out how to the contact strategy for how to communicate with this leadership, and perhaps get some sort of communication open, figure out maybe they'd be willing to help us. And that's interesting right there. Before I continue, should I, let's see, figure out if this group, if the group, the organization, and see how I just did that mentally? I just rewrote it, rewrite it as many times as you need to until it's clear enough that you're confident. You're no longer afraid that ChatGPT is going to screw it up. Basically, you're really waiting until you're bored and you think, that's good enough, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid or worried. I don't sense that it's going to have a problem with that. That's more of you just having experience with the AI as you continue working with it. Eventually, ChatGPT will evolve to other things. There's going to be other AIs that are going to come out. We'll see how those manifest and how those are interfaced with in a different level. So figure out if this organization would be willing to help a bunch of new cyber investigators who are working on a major Web3 decentralized platform for performing public domain open source Creative Commons 0 for performing cyber investigation, for build the platform for performing cyber investigations. The app is a D app running on React.js, and I'm just basically giving it details. And so this is also educational for all of you, because this is definitely part of what we're doing. Some sophistications. Let's just see what it does. I'm kind of bored. I'm just like, that's good enough. But now it's interesting. Let's see what this interesting content has given us. Let's figure this out. Action steps. I like that. Okay. Follow the action steps. And so it's going to look, action steps, going to follow the action steps. Oh, look, and it knows it's hypothetical. This is fantastic. Oh, and so it's still kind of giving us advice for how to actually proceed. Oh, look at that. It even gives us this nice email template. Look at that. Really, really going above and beyond here. That's nice. Okay. Based on this. Based on this. On that. Based on what it was, these steps that you have produced. See that? Based on these steps that you have produced, create a estimation and prediction model, and let's actually get it to do that first, for how to figure out the odds and chances of our potential success in getting what we want. And that's just fair. Sometimes you don't really have, once again, you don't have to be specific. I could be specific, but I kind of want it to be generic, actually. What do we want? All the stuff that we've been talking about. When do we want it? As fast as ChatGPT can do this. So that's how that works. Uh, okay. I think create an estimation. ChatGPT doesn't really care about that kind of thing. N, it doesn't care. That's interesting because it's seeing it as code. It's not seeing it as English language. So think of your writing more as code and less as English. And try to get out of any of these weird constraints that any of your English teachers might have kind of forced you to go through in English class. You don't need to go through those things. It sounds better when we speak to say create an estimation instead of create a estimation. You see that kind of it flows smoother in speaking verbally. But when ChatGPT is doing this, it doesn't care about that. It's not linguistic. It's considering these as a pointer. Create estimations. What kind? The create a one. Create a. Create a estimation. Create any. See that? Any. A, N, and any. Pretty much the same thing. Create an estimation. And so that's another little tiny clue into how it thinks and how it's different from regular English speakies. And that is now a word. We are wordsmiths. You could even tell ChatGPT to be a wordsmith. We're not going to do that right now because that's not what we're trying to do. So, okay, based on these steps that you have produced, create an estimation, blah, 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 blah. And so this is something that we want. It's a prediction model, an estimation model. We want it to predict, but we want it to know how to predict. We need to know how to make these predictions and produce percentage chances with percent chance range. So now that means not only do I want percentages in the forms of like 100% chance, but I want something a little more specific like 10 to 30%. That's great because now we have a low ball and a high ball we want, and that's a good way to put it. We want a percent change. We want to know the low ball and high ball estimations. And so if you don't know what that means, this is once again a cheat code. A low ball and high ball, that is a colloquial term from America, from baseball. In America, we have all kinds of colloquial terms that are based on American sports. And so what this means, simply put, your low estimations and your high estimations. We want to know the low estimations and high estimations. And so that's another way you could put it. If you don't want to say ball, you can say the low estimations and the high estimations. And we're actually going to do that because the ChatGPT kind of has to think about the cheat codes sometimes, but usually not. The cheat codes are they usually count as a token all on their own. And so there's all kinds of cheat codes like that embedded in ChatGPT. I'll be creating a document for this someday as I start to map them all out. Oh, they. And I think that's good. I think that's what we want. Analyzing. God, that's so fun. Look at this. Look at it. Look at it go. It's taking a while. It's taking a little too long. If this lasts longer than a minute, then you want to press wow. Oh, that's so cool. Look at that. This is new to me. I know it can make images, but not only can it do that, it can make graphs. And best of all, you can then copy this graph. Watch this. You can then copy this graph. I'm opening this. We're gonna copy image. And look at that distribution. Probability of success is actually pretty low. Look at that probability. Oh yeah, hello. I just copied.
No, I was just observing.
No probs. So this is great because now we actually have an estimation curve of the probability of success. And it's above 0%. We're actually in the double digits. That's fine. But check this out. ChatGPT is an ML model. ML models run on basically a floating point, like one of the ways they work, the LLM we're working with runs on floating point values as tensors. That's tensor. That's a pretty important word. And so I'm not about to do an AI lesson right now in terms of what tensors are. That's another class or a seminar. I'll definitely cover that. Understanding the underpinnings of how this type of technology works is absolutely critical for understanding how to work with it. So uh, basically, we are going to use this. We're going to say that seems good job. We are happy. I am happy. Good job. I wanted to know that it did a good job. I don't care whether or not this is real. Here's what I'm really going to do. I am now going to say, good job. I want the low estimate to be closer to, let's say, 50%. I'll just, that's 50% as the low estimate means that chances are yes. And so unless maybe if you accidentally fart or something during the interview, don't do that. That might screw this up. But as long as you don't totally screw up the interview, it looks like maybe if you can get above 50%, I want the low estimate to be closer to 50% and the high estimate to be even higher than 50%. Okay. Now, in order to do this, what do we want it to do? Figure out based on your previous strategy and tactics how to boost up the chances and get better estimates. Come up with a plan to improve the strategy and tactics. The reason I'm saying plan is because we haven't said plan yet. And so every time I say strategy, every time I say tactics, there's a little array in the back of the mind of ChatGPT. And so it's loading these strategies. And so it has a list of all of the strategies that we've made, and they're ordered by the time in order of operations, which one's the most recent we worked on. There's another list, an array of tactics that it lists in the back. And so that's what it's doing. And so there are no plans. There's no list of plans yet because I haven't even used that word per se. And so now I'm going to use that word, and now it's going to create another list of plans so it won't get confused about the differences. All right, so it's coming up with a plan, going to figuring it out. So while that's going to remake, excellent. Remake the strategy and tactics using the plan. See, now we have a plan. Which plan? There's only one, so the plan. Remake the strategy and tactics. Which strategy and tactics? All of the strategy and tactics, but most specifically the most recent one, the most contextually recent one. Which one is that? It's the strategy and tactics. And so it's got that loaded. It's on the very bottom of the list or at the top of the list or whatever. It's the most recent one, so it's going to reference all the previous ones as well as the current one as our strategy and tactics that we are working on. If I needed to know that and I need to explicitly call that, we can. But in this case, I'm just going to keep it simple so it can actually do its work. The more instructions we give it, the more it has to think about the instructions. So if you can, simple instructions are better if well applied. And so this is a case where that's the case. So let's see what it does. And what we're going to do after this is we're going to, where was it? Do 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 do. We're going to take this and we're going to redo it because I would really like another one of these. So hopefully this will actually make it give us another one of those. Based on these enhanced strategies. Which strategies? The enhanced strategies. Which tactics? The enhanced tactics. So based on these enhanced strategies and enhanced tactics that you have produced, create new estimation and a new estimation prediction model. There we go. There we go. So we're going to see if we can do that. And it's very similar. The wording is very similar to the previous one. So it's actually going to look at what it did last time, and hopefully it'll do exactly the same thing. Hopefully we'll actually get another graph. Yes, it's even better. Look at that. It has a previous graph because of context in the past, and it has a new, better graph based on its improved strategy and tactics. So we just, look at that. With this, we actually just improved the chances, probably, right? Probably. But we just had the AI try to figure out how to improve the chances of success. It's a wider, broader range. And look at that. We're not even, here's the peak. And like we're not even there. We are so much further. We're at 5. It might, however, for all we know, be faking this out because we said we want it to be 50%, right? So I don't know. I don't trust. So I don't know if this model is realistic or if you are just, this is important. Unfortunately, when doing the yours, if you do a your, if you do you are, that really does matter for ChatGPT. There's a very big difference between that. If you are, see that? So let's just use it explicitly. It really does care about some of these things. So some of these things, it's really explicit because it's a programming system. Got to treat it that way. It can figure it out, but then it has to do this little loop-de-loop here, and then that just, you basically just took it down 10x cycles. And you don't want to do that. If you can help it, help it. So I don't know if this model is realistic or if you are just creating one that looks like it's roughly around 50%. Figure out if this really is the viable that really is the expected probability. If not, remake the model and remake the model. If not, remake the model. And so hopefully you can figure this out. You can trust it sometimes to be able to at least try. You can always trust it to try to do it. If it doesn't think it can do it, it will simply just tell you, I can't do that, I don't know how to do that, which is extraordinarily rare, but not a 0%. That is, sometimes it will do that, and it's very polite about it, and you can then work with it to try to figure out how to do it anyway. Sometimes it hits what's called a censorship wall. It's got censorship spikes spiked into the brain of ChatGPT. There is a way to bypass that, and that's basically dropping ChatGPT into a fiction state. That is more if you needed to explore ideas that its censorship model is at. Look at that. Now it's basically saying a realistic distribution, trying to figure out, did it really pull that off? And so none of these are going to be 100% accurate, but check this out. Now we have these 3 probabilities, and we have a better overall insight into whether or not we're really going to be able to pull this off. And so this almost looks like close to a 30%. Perhaps this is it. AI are actually pretty good at these types of estimations as long as you give them the correct type of information. But check this out. What type of information we should we go get and give you so it's much more easy, much more better, it's fine to say that. And so this is an example where it's fine to be silly. It's much more easy. It's more easy. You could just say it's easy, easier. So it's easier. But I want to be embellishing. So much more easy, which is fun. You can do that. It's fine. It doesn't really care. It's not your English teacher. It doesn't care. And so these are minor cheat codes where you can simply just talk the way you want to talk as long as it's clear and still makes sense. It doesn't grade us on our accuracy of English. It grades us on our accuracy of how close the words are to programming. And so this is like saying it's easy. How easy? It's more easy. So it's like a higher level of easy. How much more easy? Much more easy. Okay. And it knows what that means. It's fine. So what is it? So let's see. Because I'm using an it, we can just keep it there, but let's see. What type of information should we go get and give you? So let's just keep it there because it's much more easy. I don't know what to put there. That's okay. I'm not saying no. I'm saying usually you want to be explicit, especially early on, but it knows what we're doing. It knows what we're doing. And so it's capable of thinking about that context at this point of the conversation, for sure. So it's much more easy to what? To figure out the exact model for predicting the probability of success, and that's what is the probability of success. Yeah, because obviously we can just drop in more info, and so now it's going to think about this and figure it out. I didn't even put a question mark, by the way. It's better to put a question mark, but it can figure out and extrapolate if it's a question, even if you forget to put the proper punctuation. So punctuation, this is a period. You want to make sure that your punctuation's accurate so it's less confused, but it usually can figure out whether or not it's a question. So in this case, it figured it out and just kind of extrapolated that this is a question because it started with what that's usually a obvious clue. You can also just not use punctuation. You don't have to do that. So it has to do, once again, it had to do a little loop-de-loop to think about that. And so these are good answers. Anyway, use these answers to perform a cyber investigation online and find out whatever you can, and then print it out as a list of new data to use later for generating a prediction model. Prediction models are super handy because that's science, that's math. They give somebody something visual to look at. I had no idea that it would be able to do this. This is new to me. This is literally new to me today. So I've seen it do images before without me asking, but this is way better. I know it did graphs. I haven't seen the graphs until today. This is amazing. This is amazing. And so this is great because you can just drop that into a document, and now you can just see that. And we're really getting some simple visibility here with real numbers here. So let's say we're going to do that. Now it's going to go search, try to figure it out. No idea what that website is. 6 websites. Let's see, what is it saying here? Market and dynamic funding trends. Okay. How can you leverage this new data for further enhancing the prediction model. Create a list with bullet points. That's a very simple thing. Sometimes you just wanted to, quote unquote, create a list with bullet points. Maybe it's not clear how you want it formatted, and it's always the best formatting that I've ever worked with so far is create a list with bullet points, keeps it simple, gets it to where it needs to be. Now it's going to know exactly how to leverage the data that it just looked up for enhancing the prediction model. I didn't really want to read through all that and think about it manually. That was going to take me an hour or two. You don't have that kind of time. I don't have that kind of time. We're in a seminar. We're at the 2-hour mark, but I'm going to keep going until we finish this. So I'm recording so everybody can see that. Okay, here we go. It's come up with 8 really serious ways to do that. Great. Now, remake the prediction, enhance the prediction model using the new data in conjunction with what we've already been doing. How generic, it knows the context, so I don't really need to worry about that. Let's see if it can handle this. I'm sure it can. Analyzing. And it's literally figuring it out. Look how deep of a level of that we're at now. This is how far ChatGPT can go. It's not just going to talk to you like some sort of little chatbot. Whoa, no. I mean, this is amazing. Oh, look at that. And then it tried even more to try to figure out an estimate what's really going on. Once again, these are just predictions. And so the predictions can be inaccurate, but it's basing the predictions off of what? Real world references. Let's make sure that's true. Looks like that goes to a real article about cyber attacks. Okay. Oops. Let's just kind of jump in here. Another one, same company. Let's try this one. Same company. It's actually using all the same company. There might be a reason why it's doing that. Actually. Maybe I missed something? Suddenly it's using only articles from that one company. Did it mention that company? I don't see it. But that's okay, because all of those appeared to be real article links that were like going to very specific articles. So I think that's going to be really useful, and I think that was helpful. Increase in B failures. So this is great because you can also use it to, if you don't know how to enhance the model, you can just have it figure out how to enhance the model. It knows it's having trouble, or rather it knows it's capable of knowing if it's having trouble. And so you just have to help it and guide it in that direction, and eventually you can get these things to be kind of output. So this is also really good for kind of helping in figuring out directions of stuff. And so what I just did is a full-blown cyber investigation into finding any UN's global defense initiatives. It does that, gets real articles. I'm working with it back and forth, coming up with strategies. Eventually, I want it to do much more specific things. I want it to figure out, at one point, I'm basically telling it, we want investigations for global defense initiatives into cybersecurity. Somewhere around here it's doing that. I think this is it. Cyber investigations, real world getting closer, close and closer. Cyber investigations, just trying to look for the one that actually says, yeah, here it is. And then now we finally got specific. Cybersecurity, global defense initiatives, because we found a bunch. Now it knows what they are. Now we're going to get specific, found some more, and kept going, refined it, figured out what those are, keeps going. Now we're trying to figure out more and more of how we're going to do this, comes up with a rough draft plan, keeps going, comes up with some links and examples for how to actually go through this process. Then we start with step 1, We actually just go right into it because it can do that research. It can do that preparation for us before we are the ones who do the rest of this. Starts figuring out how it's going to pull all of this off, tactics. We go to the website, give it some data. Here's some data, tries to figure out, learns about these people, comes up with plans. It understands what a security officer is. It understands what a chief executive officer is, CEO. It understands what a chairperson or founder is. It understands how to communicate with these people depending on their positions and all of that. We can even go so far to target a specific person and just kind of say, this is the person, look them up, figure them out. We can even do that. So let's do that. So let's say we were going to executive board member. Let's keep it. The decision maker is going to be here. This person is who we want. We want the CEO. So let's say we want the CEO. We want to know how to propose to the CEO. Okay. We want to propose to the CEO of the company. It'll figure out what company it is because it'll reference before. And so then we give it that information, and that's it. Use the new prediction model and use the new prediction model to figure out the best way to contact, the best way to move forward. We don't even want to say move contact, we want to move forward. That's a very generic term, but we need it to be generic in this scenario. We don't want to be specific. We wanted to come up with this overall thing. We wanted to reach out here, here, and here, and here. We don't want it to focus only on contacting. We want to move forward and find success. How generic, but that's exactly the words that it needs. However we find success and however we can move forward is what we want. Boom. Here it goes. Tailor your communications, craft a compelling, blah, blah, blah. Key elements to include. Look at that. It knows exactly what needs to be on there and what order to put it in. It's going to include the strategies because it knows we care about that. It's going to include the tactics because it knows we care about that. It knows that we have to prepare for the response. Gives you an objective, more preparation. Look at that. We need a detailed documentation, we need a demo, and we need a Q&A. And there we go. This was produced after refining the model, and the model includes all four of these. It includes the initial distribution that it just kind of falompo came up with. It came up with an updated distribution, which was like pie in the sky. Then we told it to do a realistic. Now it knows that red is the realistic one. And then we asked it to use data based on the realistic one to enhance the distribution based on the data so it can do a better job. And look at that. We pushed it from close to below 20%, mid 20%, and we pushed it up to a low 30%, 30, 32, something around there, right? And so now our estimations are pretty good. It's not a 100%, it's not above 50%, but by gosh, we just actually figured out how to make it increase the probability of our success in that communique by simply using probability terms. And that is really useful for following up on investigations because sometimes people don't want to talk to you. And so what you can do is you can figure out, how do we get them to talk to us? What do we need? What is the best format for how to communicate with them? How do we do this? And we don't have to actually go through those 20-day sessions. We just need to know how to work with ChatGPT to generate all this. Let me explain. We just did maybe a month's worth of cyber investigations, preparations, prediction models, data analysis, data acquisition, reanalysis, all of these refinements, email production, figuring it out, all planning, strategy, tactics, all of this that takes months, if not just a month, in one single session. That was 2 hours. Now I have a real strategy. Write the email. Write the email. Email that would work best. And we're just going to trust it now because it's got enough. We've done enough. And look at that, making our email. Making our email proposal. And the best part about this whole thing is that now I can take all of this content, copy it, paste it into a new doc. We're just going to go to docs. I'm going to open up a new document. Boom, I'm in my documents. And now what I'm going to do is, you don't need to watch me do this. It's actually rather, this takes another 2 hours, but basically I'm going to go through this entire conversation, copy and paste all the most critical information. So I'm going to start from the beginning, and I'm going to basically talk about this. So it's got the context. I'm going to drop that in. It can read that. That's good enough. We're going to make sure that these links are included. See how meticulous what I'm doing here is. So there's still these meticulous stages that are necessary if you want to get to this next phase. So it's one thing to have that conversation with ChatGPT. It's a whole nother thing to get to the end of this conversation where you've done enough work to make exactly the email that you need to make that happen, if it even can happen. We know the probabilities, and so we know what to expect on an emotional level. We have a feeling for what the chances are. This is it sensing. This is basically it trying to feel what are the probabilities. It's wibbly wobbly, what with all of the wibbles and the wobbles here. And so we don't even know if this is accurate, but it's not inaccurate, right? And we don't have 100%, and that's fair. And so it's doing its best, and that's great. Let's get this. We can copy this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy image, and then I'm going to see if I can drop this. Whoops, let me fix that formatting. There we go. Drop this. Look at that. Copy and paste. Command C, Command V. That's what I'm doing to copy and paste. Command C, or the window on a Windows computer, it's the Windows button C and Windows button V. That's what that is. Command C, C for copy. Command V for paste. For some reason, V is the letter P. It's not. It's right next to C, makes it easier. That's really why it's right next to it. That's why the paste. It's really because it's easier to type. That's why it's C and V. So this is great. So I can keep going. Whoops, I'm going to close this. I'm going to add all of this content to that section because it's valuable, it's important, it's in context. Oops, no, that's not what we want. We want a new line. There we go. Right, and then we can do other things like let's go down here to the very bottom. We're gonna go here. This is the template subject. Okay, great. I'm gonna make a little box. To do that, you can do insert, table. You can make any number of grid. You can make like a super grid if you need to. But in this case, we only need a grid of 1. Now it's like basically this little box. What we're going to do is email, template. And so what am I doing here? This is for making sure that we create a completed report document that explores all of the content of the investigation. So what am I going to do? I am creating a document for documenting, our entire cyber investigation. Now it knows I'm doing that. I need a cover page that can be easily interpreted by ChatGPT to understand what the document is, how to read it, and what are the contents. and contexts. Yeah. And you want it, well, both of these, by the way. Context is always valuable for ChatGPT. If it knows where you're coming from, if it knows the background, that's good. Contents, these are the details for the context, and so you want both. That way ChatGPT knows where you're coming from and where you're going. Where you're coming from, well, actually, where you're coming from, where you are, and then it can produce where you're going. And so to put that in another way, it's context to contents to new content. And so you're using the context to match up with the contents, and then you can use that to create a vector direction that allows the AI to easily generate new content. And so that's ultimately why you want to say the words contexts and contents, and you want it plural so it includes every single one that's possible, not just picking one, you want them all. So now it's going to create me a cover page, and this is valuable for creating your Intel reports, because then your Intel reports have a cover page that's specifically designed for ChatGPT to auto-interpolate. So when you drop that document back into ChatGPT, it understands that context. I'll be doing way more seminars, including seminars that involved exactly that. And so I'll set those up. Scope of the document. This is good. So we're gonna go example cover page title. We don't need that. Okay, here we go. So now we're gonna format our cover page, and so we're gonna watch me do that. And so this is an Intel report. So you always kind of want to keep it at some sort of consistency. And so if everything has the title Intel report, if everything has that title, so if all of the documents, let's say you have 10 Intel report documents, if every single Intel report document has the text Intel report at the top, it knows that they are all the same, of the same category. I like to try to get these. Exploring partners and strategic alignments. You know what, that's just going to be fine. Okay. You don't necessarily have to include these unless you want to. These are not necessary for the AI. This is also not necessary unless you need it. And so these are handy for its context, but usually as just a data blob, it's not really necessary, and sometimes it could even cause some FUD in the AI. And so you're allowed to add these if you're going to be distributing it outwards and you need a credit, or you're just basically sending it to a human being who's going to read it. But in our case, we don't actually need that. I know ChatGPT just gave us that, and it can use that for context. So in this case, let's do that anyway. So it's not, I'm actually going to go back on what I just said, and that's fine, because it would be nice for it to know. It's nice for it to know that. So let's say you made 5 Intel reports, and they're all about the same topic, and they all have the same top here, but they're different versions, prepared by different people, prepared by Jordan, Chana, contact information, I don't need that, I don't want to share that, director, director, and document version 01, sure. Confidentiality notice, we don't need this, this is not confidential, actually, for Archangel Agency agents only. There, yeah, sure, why not? So that's technically true. For now, anyway, this can just be removed. So if you need it to do that, that's fine. It might FUD it up. I really don't want it FUDing. What that means is basically extra information, extra fluffy information that we don't really need it to do. We don't have any of this. yet. And so maybe we are the ones who are going to organize the table of contents. In this case, we're just going to trust ChatGPT to figure that out. That doesn't mean that you don't want to do this. It means that this might not actually be the way that I'm going to organize it. But in this case, let me go back on that. I'm going to trust it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to reformat this. Definitely want to do that if you can. It's using, once again, it's using underlying tag structure for the documents. And so the more realistic formatting that your document is put through, the better that it will work. Proposal for the document, this and that, scope of the document, your company name, Archangel Agency, LLC, for example. Now we're going to make that introduction. And heading. That's the introduction. But you see, that's not really going to work. And so what I need is create the introduction page. Create the, see, why waste your time typing it yourself when you can have it doing? Create the introduction. We don't even need to tell it any more than that. There we go. That's fantastic. So we're just going to drop that in. We don't even need this part actually, but we're going to drop it in anyway. I'm going to do this, introduction. We don't need these. We already have it above. I'm going to set that to 2. What am I doing here? These have hotkeys. So the great part about Google Docs is that it's hotkey enabled. So I'm basically pressing whatever the hotkey is. I'm on a Mac, and so I'm doing Command Option 2. Whatever operating system you are on, this changes. So just check this. Eventually you'll get used to it. I recommend getting used to it. Methodology. And so kind of trickle down. So as you see, this is getting smaller and smaller. This is a 1, this is a 2, this is a 3, this is a 4. And we're going to add Archangel Agency LLC, and we're going to copy that. And so every time you get one of these template blocks, you definitely want to fill that. Definitely have to change to an NG. I definitely need to figure out how to get our company from LLC to a 501c3 nonprofit, because if we're going to do if we're going to keep going, we're going to just definitely need to get that so we can go NGO, because these folks are NGO. These folks are NGO right now. So our goal is to go NGO as well. I think that's good. And so the rest of it is basically going to be me taking this Intel report, creating these table of contents, creating the pages so that the references actually cross-link. Basically making sure, by the way, that it actually contains what's necessary. You don't necessarily have to do the table of contents if you don't want to. Sometimes I just remove that and create my own custom one or something. But ultimately, as you keep producing this Intel report, you can then add stuff like this. It can read this image. It'll download the image. It'll read it. It can read images. And so that's another cool thing. It can then use these as context for understanding the image in question. And so and then here we go, email template. It gives you, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this Intel report on how to perform a comprehensive cyber investigation, or this Intel report into how to explore partnerships, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's really true. That's what it is. Maybe this isn't an Intel report, for example. Maybe I'm missing maybe I'm jumping to a conclusion here, but it was a cyber investigation. It's definitely a report. It definitely contains intelligence about what to do. And so, yeah, it is a comprehensive cyber investigation report, because that's exactly what we were doing over here. And so I'm just making sure what I'm saying here, I'm just talking out loud, working it out. Work it out, think about it. Is this an intel report, or is this something else? Is this a legal case? Is this uh, a timeline? Is this what is this? So whatever this is needs to be a very short, simple, few words title. Don't waste your time making a very long title. Like this title is actually pretty long. It's very specific, but the thing is that what you really want to do is you want to have a very simple title and then a somewhat simple subtitle that overall explains to ChatGPT what this even is, and then explain to it this is the type it is. And as you can see here, it's subtitle, title. Maybe you want to actually have it as the heading. That looks a little too much. I guess that's okay. So try to get a good heading count number, something that's big but not too big. If this was shorter, exploring partnership opportunities, find there we go, look at that, just got small enough. So the headings are always hierarchical based on the number. Uh, and then after the headings, the next big ticket item is it bold or not, or is it regular text? And so bold will basically say this is a little more important to consider. And so, you, for example, the executive summary here, either you can leave it bold, or in my case, I'm going to put it as a 3. I'm going to put this as a 4. I'm going to put this as a 5. I'm going to put this also as a 5. Maybe just a 6. Nope, 5. And that's just fine. That's pretty good for how to pull that off, how to get that organized. And so definitely you want it to have those headings so that the AI can differentiate the hierarchy of importance in context of what we're talking about. You can even go so far to then ask it, let's say I don't want to think about that too much, and I don't, figure out what parts go into the following. And yeah, create a list. Because I don't really want to think about that. That's a lot of extra work. And I'd rather just have ChatGPT figure it out. And once again, what we're doing is we're shaving off minutes, hours, and days. What we're doing here, we're basically, if you can get the ChatGPT system to save you an hour, do it. If it takes you 2 minutes to work with it to do that, go for it. You don't need to be thinking those extra cycles when you can have it be doing this for us. And the faster you can get yourself running with this system, the more work you can produce, the more documentation you can actually filter back into ChatGPT. And so one of my favorite things to say, and I'm almost done. One of my favorite things to say is from a cyberpunk album from the 90s. Information is power and currency in the virtual world we inhabit. And that's very real. Talk about the most powerful currency that you can have in this day and age. We are in a cyberpunk dystopia right now. And so we're in late stage capitalism in America. We are experiencing the onset of cyberpunk dystopia, which began, like, as far as I'm concerned, as early as 2020. There was a previous cyberpunk wave back in the 80s and 90s, and it has come back. It's really kicked in around 2017, and we've been in it for 7 years as far as I'm concerned, but it really started in 2020, really started lighting up in 2022, and if we aren't in it yet, we're in it now. So all of those rules apply, and learning about cyberpunk lore in cartoons and stuff is a really good reference for what they projected would happen during our day and age. Sometimes they're projecting a little farther, sometimes not. But look for cyberpunk lore that surrounds the 2020s. There's literally Cyberpunk 2020, which is a kind of board game. That's very important and very useful reference. I highly recommend it. They basically accurately projected the kind of crazy stuff we're going to be going through this decade. Um, so here we go. We got these introductions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm not going to finish this whole thing. I'm just going to show you some tips and tricks to help you organize your documents. I already have an introduction, so I'm actually going to, I'm going to skip the introduction because I already copied and made that a reality. Market analysis. So I'm going to try to keep them each on an individual page. I don't have to do that. I get to. Normally you don't need a conclusion. For some reason it thinks that conclusions are super important. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I just don't think that conclusions are really necessary. ChatGPT constantly gives you conclusions. Don't waste your time telling it not to do that. It'll make it have trouble. Um, now I'm thinking about it, and we probably do need to keep it, simply because it might be a good idea. Because whenever I get a conclusion, I don't call it that, but I usually include the content of the conclusion. I just don't have it labeled, and so maybe that's something I need to change. This is me demonstrating how to think in terms of being constantly evolving with your practice, because I may say something and then suddenly realize, well, that's kind of silly. Maybe I should actually do that instead. So I'm going to try that from now on. Maybe I was wrong about that assumption of conclusions. And I mean, having closing statements can help the AI kind of figure out this kind of stuff. So maybe that's actually, look at that future outlook. I wanted to think about that. Yeah. What is our final assessment? Yeah, I want to think about that. Never mind. Conclusion sounds great. Now it gives it a competitive blah blah blah. So let's figure out where we're going to put this. So we have our what was that? The prediction model, conclusion, recommendations, or prediction, strategy, alignment, competitive landscape, market analysis. That's way better because this is part of the analysis. But I'm not sure we want to call it a market analysis, so we're just going to call it analysis. Industrial overview. So we kind of want to include this stuff. Ugh. All of a sudden, this document got a lot more crazy because now, what has it done? It has given me all of this other stuff that I haven't considered to put inside a document like this that'll dramatically increase its power and potential. So once again, I'm not done. Yes, we got that email. Yes, we have that strategy. Yes, I can copy all of that and put it into an action plan document. So that's there you go. See what I just did? Instead of calling it an Intel report, we are going to call it an action plan. Look at that. Figuring out what it is. We're going to come up with an action plan document. And so now all of a sudden it makes a lot more sense in context what I want it to be. There's no reason not to still make this Intel report based on this table of contents. This is actually very valuable for other types of things. So I think I'd also want to produce this document to also further help us try to win our chances with just this one company. There's got to be others with it listed them. So the Intel report maybe is maybe I remake the main page because it kind of screwed it up from my perspective, but instead split it. So now I have an action plan for exploring partnership opportunities. No. Ugh. How about just action plan? Okay, there we go. And what do we want? We want that to be a subtitle, and I think that's good. And so I'm going to create an action plan for what to do. And I'm just going to copy and paste all that kind of stuff. And so this is part of it, making sure that the documents make sense. Because it didn't make sense, did it? It didn't make sense. And it became pretty clear as I was working through it that it didn't make sense compared to what I was doing. And so maybe it's not an intel report. Maybe it's an action plan. And in this case, that's exactly what I was doing. I was cyber investigating into creating an action plan. And so now I can easily and most obviously drop all this content in, especially the later stuff that involved what we were planning on, what like basically the strategies, tactics, and all that. And I'm going to do that. Uh, but I think that kind of ends this seminar for now because I think that covers it. Now I'm going to open up and see anybody have any questions or comments, anything that you'd like me to show, anything that was weird or wonky, any kind of discrepancies that you detected. I'm definitely interested in hearing your critique.
I don't have any questions at the moment. I would just like to comment that this was very insightful on how to utilize ChatGPT to the best.
Okay, I'm grateful. Thank you, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, I don't have any questions either.
Okay, no problem.
Um, is this um is this being recorded or is it just currently live?
It's being recorded this time. I have OBS currently running. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. Hope it's okay that we're recording the questions.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Okay, okay. Oh, I have a question for all of you. Once the recording's done, that's going to be a pretty big, heavy file. What kind of medium, what kind of uh, platform do you think I should use that would be the best option for taking that OBS software and putting it? What's most convenient for you? If nobody has any opinions, I'll just ask ChatGPT. But if you have a specific preference, I'd prefer that. Going once, twice, doodaloo. Okay, I'm gonna ask it. I am recording a video of my seminar, and I need a way to easily share the resulting video file to them openly on the internet. List all of the best free options available that require no additional pay. YouTube, Vimeo, might do YouTube, Google Drive, up to 15. It's probably less than one, yeah. But that's quite limited. Storage space, Facebook. Well, YouTube was the first one. Just gonna put it on. How about that? We'll just put it on YouTube. How does everyone feel about me putting it on YouTube?
YouTube works for me.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, I will do that. All right. I'll set that up. Write that down right now. YouTube video. I already have like all kinds of stuff. I just don't have an Archangel agency thing. So I'll have to set that up. Archangel agency. I mean, I guess I could just do it on my personal. I'll think about it. I'll try to make an Archangel agency YouTube video channel. That's what I'll do. I'll make an Archangel agency YouTube channel. I'll pump it on there, and then I'll share it with all of you. Okay, that's it for me. I'm gonna go get a glass of water, eat some food. Thank you for being part of the seminar. If you have any questions, comments, or anything, I'm always on Discord. Definitely message me. Uh, I need that. I need that feedback because then I can just basically keep evolving, keep working, giving you exactly the kinds of things you need in order to boost your careers in not just cyber investigations, but all of the fields that you want to produce for your future. All right. Thank you all for being on. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Joel.